We go with our next speaker, who is originally from San Francisco, but he's been working all over the world after graduating as the only American ever from l'École supérieure nationale des arts de la marionnette. C'est vrai, hein? He's a puppet artist, and he's one of the best in the world. The list of his productions is too long to go through now, but he's done a lot, from Miss Piggy to operas. It's a fantastic list. And he's here with us, and please give him, clap your hands as if you're a marionette. A warm welcome for Basil Twist.
Hello. Thank you all for staying so long. It's a wonderful day, and I'm pleased to be included here. I want to show you something first, before I start talking. I know we have a video camera filming it, but if you can see, look here. So, what just happened? We were watching this piece of wood. It's a piece of wood, and it has some strings on it. And it looked like it was alive. It's like we kind of believed it was alive. We know it's not alive because it's a piece of wood, you know that. But we kind of somewhere believe it's alive. And that gap between what we know and what we believe is what I think is so really interesting about puppetry, and is actually a very profound thing that this art shares with us. I'm also good at it, and this puppet is a really good puppet. I made it years ago in school, and I spend a lot of time with it. So more than knowing how to make it do something, I know how to listen to it, how to kind of help it do what it wants to do, and be attentive to this kind of spirit that's already in there, I think. So I'll put him away. for a moment, and I'll tell you a little more about my my story and my art. I was always into puppets as a kid. It was in my family. My mother played with puppets some, and even my grandfather, who I didn't know, but I got his puppets later. And when I was a child, I loved puppets. They were better than other toys. They were superior because I could make them come alive. That just seems better to me. And I was also kind of shy, and if I had to go to school and do a presentation, I would use a puppet to kind of as a crutch for public speaking. I'm a little bit better now, but I just kept doing it. I just loved puppets. I just kept doing it. And I left San Francisco, I went to New York, I started working in the theater and with lots of amazing puppeteers. And I did go to puppetry school in France, and most people don't go to a puppetry school, but I did, and it was a really good one. And for an American to go to a school, an arts school in France, is a huge eye-opener. So I learned a lot, not just about puppetry, but about all sorts of arts. And I want to share something in particular that I learned about that became kind of a theme in my work. So, I need this thing. One thing I learned about was this company, the Ballet Russe, who performed 100 years ago, frequently in Paris, and from Russia, Diaghilev's Ballet Russe. Probably a lot of you have heard of this company. They did amazing performances that combined different artists from different disciplines, Picasso and Cocteau and Stravinsky and Eric Satie, and it was like the interdisciplinary art form of 100 years ago, and it was a new idea. That's a kind of a buzzword now in performance, but puppetry was the original interdisciplinary art form because it combines performance and the sculptural. So one thing that actually really, that school provoked me was I saw this picture. This was a performance that the Ballet Russe did in Italy. Giacomo Balla, the Italian futurist, created what was called a ballet without dancers to the music of Igor Stravinsky. And it was, this was the ballet. There were no people. It was just these shapes. I thought that is so cool. I thought that was so fascinating, that idea that there could be a ballet without people. And anyway, at that time, you know, so abstraction was still relatively new. Kandinsky had started painting pure forms, pure color, pure shape, kind of had written, why can't visual art be like music? It doesn't need to represent something. It can just make you feel something. And I thought, God, there should be a puppet show like that. That would be so cool. And I looked, and I never saw one. I never got to see one. So I thought I'd make one myself. So this is a show that I made. That was a show called Symphonie Fantastique, and it was, let me get this. I went too far. I'm going to pause that. It was a show that was, I'm going to go backwards to, sorry, everybody. Here we come. So Symphonie Fantastique was done underwater. It was done in an aquarium. It was a 1,000-gallon aquarium. This is backstage. This is how we were doing the show. There were 5 people. We were pulling fabric and bubbles and all sorts of things under the water to make this music come alive. So it was Symphonie Fantastique of Berlioz. And it was a lot of fun to do this show. And we made a lot of noise backstage. You couldn't hear us out front because we had it isolated sound-wise. What the water did is the water gave these objects their own life. It suspended them in the space so that these objects could come alive and be alive on their own in a way. So that show was kind of a phenomenon for me in New York, and people said it's like listening with your eyes. And so people who are involved in music were really excited about my work, and I got invited to do more work with lots of amazing musicians. And I did a piece at Lincoln Center, and I wanted to do something different. I didn't want to repeat myself and do the same thing. So I did a piece inspired by the Ballet Russe, a piece called Petrushka, which is also a Stravinsky ballet. But this time I used representational puppets, not abstract puppets. And in Petrushka, this ballet, Nijinsky, the famous dancer, played a puppet. He pretended to be a puppet. And he moved with kind of robotic-like actions, like a reduction of a human being. But I don't think a puppet is a reduction of a human being. Like Diana was saying, I feel like what we're showing is the idea of something. And the idea can be stronger than the real thing, that a puppet can be more than a human, that a puppet ballerina can be more than a ballerina, that she can do things that no ballerina could ever do, like fly. And after making this show, I wanted to make shows that really only engaged the puppetness of something. I only want to put a puppet on stage because I want a puppet on stage, because I want that experience. Here, because the story was about a puppet, there was something kind of uber about putting what was a dancer pretending to be a puppet, have a puppet play that part, and have that puppet try to be human, and to have to feel emotion, to have him feel love, to really feel that from a puppet. So I wanted to show those two pieces, especially because they show kind of two extremes of my work, the abstraction and the representational. And I'm just going to show a little about how it worked backstage with Petrushka. There's 3 puppeteers working together to work one puppet. This is based on a Japanese style of puppetry, and the Japanese really have the most sophisticated tradition of puppetry that dates back hundreds of years. It's really a high art there. And we're changing it quite a bit, but the inspiration is to use 3 people. So there you can see there's one person on the feet, and one person working the head, and another person working the arms. And it allows for a really exquisite technique, a really expressive puppet. And it takes a lot of coordination between the 3 puppeteers. And it's especially hard work for the person on the feet. But that's nothing compared to the coordination it takes when there's other puppeteers on stage. So in this production, in Petrushka, there's 3 characters, and there's 9 puppeteers here. And so they have to coordinate themselves every time a puppet crosses in front of one another. It's this amazing dance of its own that the puppeteers have to do, which was thrilling to do and obviously a lot of work. So anyway, I wanted to show those 2 pieces because they're the most kind of extreme of the work that I've done in terms of the abstraction and the more representational. And in most of my work, I've kind of dipped back and forth between the 2. I sometimes mix them. I try and keep it different. I've always tried to keep my work not repeating itself. I collaborate with other people a lot, but when I make my own work, the why of when I put on a show is because I want to bring us present to that idea of something coming to life, of animating something, of giving it a soul. And that's what I do. That's what I think is the most interesting thing and actually fascinating and slightly scary and deep thing about puppetry. And that's why puppetry is actually an ancient art form that kind of relates to a world that still exists in some cultures where we see spirits in rocks and trees and a pen or a podium or a puppet. So I love using those abstract shapes. I love the small ritual of being together and looking at a puppet. I also love the big pieces. I've worked a lot with music, so I've done operas and ballet, but I love the small thing. I want to show you all one more example of a kind of puppetry, a more abstract puppetry. This is a piece of silk. Silk is a very generous material, one of my favorite materials to work with, because it's very light and it moves beautifully. And what I'm going to do is I have a fan here, so there's going to be some air coming up, and then the gravity, of course, pushes it down, and I'll put the silk in the middle of it. And I feel like it's kind of caught between being alive and not being alive. And that frisson there that's present every time you see a puppet, even the most mundane or funny or childish ones, there's something there that touches us. So I'm going to do this little example. So thank you. I hope sharing about what I do connects you with this spark, this strange spark, and the mystery of it that we all participate in. Thank you.
Thank you, Basil. Basil Twist. Thank you very much for this magic.